For today's tutorial in Lightroom, I want to teach you how to make your images pop and be more punchy and just really stop viewers in their tracks. When they see how vibrant and colorful and punchy these images actually are, there's no way they're going to be able to keep scrolling. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, stay tuned for today's episode. Today's tutorial is going to be tons of fun, and I feel like a lot of you can relate to this type of imagery and would probably want to use it. So what we're going to do today is take a kind of a more dull image that was shot straight out of camera and just kind of pump this thing up to be a little bit more vibrant and punchy to really attract your audience. So if you put an image like the one on the left here in your Instagram feed, because of this vibrant, colorful, punchy look, it's probably going to grab yourself some attention and leave viewers stopping in their tracks to check out the image a little more versus this one over here on the left. And this is the beauty of being able to do some photo editing. So let's go ahead and hop into today's video and learn how to do this. So all I did, I started off with a virtual copy that we learned in the last episode. If you haven't seen that one, click the card above and we'll teach you how to do the virtual copies. But what we're going to do is achieve this look, and it's really pretty simple to do. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, I typically shoot my images a little bit underexposed. There's a couple reasons that I do that. If I did not shoot this image underexposed, this sky would be completely blown out. It's getting close to that, but it's easier to pull up details in the shadows because once you lose details in your highlights, they're gone forever. So what I'm going to do here is start by pulling up on my shadows, and we're essentially mimicking an HDR type image. You know, in an HDR, you take multiple photos at different exposure levels, merge those together, and you get an overall punchy looking image. But we're going to create that without, because I didn't have a tripod, you know, to set this image up, and with a lot of moving objects like water and stuff, you would get ghosting effects that just don't look so hot. So if you just pull up your shadows here, you're already getting a lot of detail that we didn't previously have. And then if we pull down our highlights, that's going to fix any kind of like hot spots that are in the image, because we do need to pull our exposure up just slightly. So we don't want to go too overwhelming with our exposure increase here, because it's going to just blow out a lot of these details back here. But already we've got a nice look. So all we have to do now is add in some contrast to kind of get that edge back where we kind of took away from the shadows and the highlights and moved everything around. The way we get that back is just to add in a little bit of contrast. Now we want to take our blacks, and I want to pull those to the left here, and that's just going to darken in those blacks a little bit. We're going to pull our clarity up to a decent amount, you know, maybe around 15 to 20. It just varies depending on your particular image. Now, I also want to pull up my vibrance. That's my favorite area to mess with when I'm trying to work with colors and tones and really make things pop. Saturation gives it too much of this just fake, yucky look. So actually with saturation, I typically pull that back around -2 to 5, somewhere around there. Not anything too crazy, and it gives me more room to play with my vibrance. So once I get the vibrance at a somewhat natural state, I'll leave it right there. Also, we're going to warm up the image just a little bit, because that bright warmth kind of welcomes everybody in and makes everything a lot more exciting. Then we're going to add ourselves some sharpening to the image. We're going to put our sharpening up, and then with our masking tool, we're going to hold down the Alt key as we mask across, just to get more detailed areas where we want them. And overall, the image is looking pretty good here. We'll compare it to the other file we had. It looks like I have desaturated these greens just slightly, so we'll jump into our HSL sliders and do that really quickly. It's not too overwhelming of what we've done, but we're going to grab our hue slider here with this target icon. We're going to grab up into our green leaves, and we're going to kind of pull that hue a little bit down, more towards the yellow side of things. And then as far as our saturation, we're just going to pull that down to darken them up just a little bit so they're not too overwhelming. We might even play with our luminance here and just kind of pull that down a little bit. And at that point, I'm going to actually pull my hues back up just a little bit more, have a little bit more of that green warmth in there. Now with the hues on this blue, I really want that to pop, so I'm going to grab my saturation target here, and I'm actually going to pull up on the saturation of the blue on this shirt, because I think it's really vibrant and really needs to pop and show forth. So we're going to click done really quickly here, get out of our HSL sliders, and we could probably honestly work with some more of this stuff. So I'm going to pull my clarity up just a tiny bit more, and then my vibrance, I'm going to pull that up some, and I might put my saturation around -3. And I think that looks pretty good. It's pretty close to the original edit. I think in the original we might have had a little bit more clarity going on, and actually the exposure might be a little bit bigger as well. So let's go back into our editing process here, And let's just pull up our exposure just a little more. I kind of like that look there. We'll add in a little bit more contrast. We'll pull our blacks back down, and then our whites. Let's kind of play around with those. I'm actually going to pull those back just slightly. Maybe bring our highlights around here, and then just a tiny bit more contrast. And there we go. That's a simple way that you can work around and make your images kind of have a little bit more punch, vibrance, and color to them to really make those stand out. Again, if you look at the original image that we created to begin with, it was this dark, kind of dull looking image that we turned into something more like this. I think today's tutorial was a lot of fun and can be very useful in a lot of situations. If it fits in with your style, I think it could be a very powerful thing to utilize to really grab people's attention. You know, you only got a few seconds to grab attention when people are scrolling really quickly through their Instagram feeds, whether they're on their lunch break or they're hanging out with friends or just waiting on someone. You really only have a few seconds to grab that attention. So if anything you can do by making your images more vibrant and consistent is a way to do that. It's a way to really captivate your audience, grab their attention, and steal that like. But guys, that's what's going to do it for today. And as always, be sure to create something new today.